I'm Sarwar Kashmeri. I'm a fellow of the Foreign Policy Association, and I'm going to moderate the event this evening. For those of you who've not been to one of these evening events, let me just lay out what's about to happen here. I'm going to take a few minutes and introduce our speaker, say a few remarks, and then roughly 6:30 or a little after, Professor Telhami has agreed to take a few questions, and then we will end promptly at 7 o'clock so that you can enjoy a reception outside and talk some more to our speaker. I want to take this opportunity to thank BNP and especially Mr. Everett Shank for making this possible. Very hospitable room, and thank you very much for your generosity. I should also tell you that this is the launch of the Mary Belknap Memorial Lecture Series. Mary Belknap was a dynamo, an engine at the FBA. She died a few months ago, just under a year, and I can tell you that the FBA's mission of helping to provide and educate the next generation of leaders is what it is today because of Mary Belknap. She was an outstanding supporter of the Foreign Policy Association. The FBA is almost 100 years old, and Mary Belknap served with the FBA and was its chairman for almost a third of that time. So I think you can appreciate the imprint that she has left with us. I want to recognize the presence of her devoted husband and also a great supporter of the FBA and a good friend, Norton Belknap. So the FBA has a knack for timing their functions. And how much more timely could this lecture be on the Middle East? Even as we speak, we are celebrating, the Egyptians are celebrating the first anniversary of the Egyptian revolution. The parliament has already met for the first time. They've, in a very boisterous and noisy manner, I understand, chosen the Speaker of the House. But I mean, who are we to talk about noisy and boisterous? At least they got it done. So, so this is a rather historic evening. And even while the lecture goes on, the military government in Egypt is beginning to dismantle its tough rule and the emergency laws that have been there for decades. And of course, we couldn't have a more informed person than Professor Telhami to speak to us. So what I thought I'd do is I'd just talk about some of the questions that are rattling around everybody's mind about the Middle East, and just to set the stage for our talk. So I'm thinking now about questions like, will the U.S. be faced with a more democratic series of countries in the Middle East, but countries that all have more or less Islamic governments? And what does that mean? And what does that? What's the impact on American foreign policy? And how do we deal with it? Has the Arab Spring reached its apogee? Countries like Syria and Bahrain, Saudi Arabia seem to have drawn a line in the sand and said, not here. Will the United States have to recalibrate its policy towards Israel? How about Iran and Iraq? How do they fit into this mosaic? And the internet. I mean, a lot of people say that the internet was a huge enabler of this revolution. If that is the case, the generation of people who use the internet, Facebook and so on, like to be instantly connected and get results in a few minutes. How are they going to react when the changes in the Middle East take not days, but decades? And then finally, how about the economy? How about the jobs? So on. So as you can see, the realignment of the Middle East has a huge impact on the region, on American foreign policy, and the world. And to help us fathom, understand these questions, what they mean, give some depth to them, we have one of America's most prominent experts in the Middle East. Shibley Telhami is the Anwar Sadat Professor for Peace and Development at the University of Maryland, non-resident senior fellow at the Saban Center at Brookings Institution. Now, before coming to the University of Maryland, he taught at several universities, including Cornell, Ohio State, Southern California, Princeton, Columbia, Swarthmore College, and the University of California at Berkeley, where he got his doctorate in political science. He's a prolific author and commentator, advisor to Congress and to administrations. His best-selling book, The Stakes, America and the Middle East, was selected by Foreign Affairs as one of the top 5 books, Middle East, in 2003. He's been a principal investigator in the annual Arab Public Opinion Survey, conducted since 2002 in 6 Arab countries. And Professor Telhami was given the Distinguished International Service Award by the University of Maryland in 2002, and the Excellence in Public Service Award by the University System of Maryland Board of Regents in 2006. He's also, I understand, given up a slot on PBS this evening to come speak with us. Now, before I call Professor Telhami to the podium, I'd like to take you back a century. Take you back a century to President Theodore Roosevelt, who found himself in Egypt just about a century ago, almost to the month. And there he found a nation in some ferment, trying to overthrow the then colonial power of Britain. And things were not going too smooth. And President Theodore Roosevelt said, the training of a nation to fit itself successfully, to fulfill the duties of self-government, is a matter not of a decade or two, but of generations. And then he continued in Arabic. He said, Allah ma'al sabarina iza sabaru. God is with the patient if they know how to wait. Let me introduce to the podium the illustrious Professor Maryland, Mr. Telhami.